minutes, in 4 minutes. So there's still time to grab a tea or coffee. Okay, it's 1:30 Geneva time. So I would like to now give the floor to Ms. Anne Vaucher, our distinguished chair of the IOE Policy Working Group on the Gender Equality and Diversity. Anne, over to you.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. It is my great honor and privilege to welcome you all in this very important gathering. And as Tina said, so I'm Anne Vaucher, chair of the IOE Policy Working Group on Gender Equality and Diversity. And today we come together at a crucial moment, I think, in the global dialogue on the care economy. The significance of this gathering cannot be emphasized enough, as the care economy is steadily gaining momentum on the international agenda. This is evidenced by key milestones, as for example, a dedicated UN International Day of Care and Support in October, the recently adopted ILO June resolution on decent work and the care economy, and Sonia Janai, who was a spokesperson at the ILC, will be, of course, is present and will be a speaker today. And of course, the other momentum is the Human Rights Council resolution on the centrality of care and support. So these are just few of the crucial indicators on this ongoing and critical trajectory. So I would like to underscore a few things that despite the several challenges central to the discussion on care, one fundamental issue to gender equality remains the negative impact upon women of this the disproportionate care responsibilities. We all know that. Hindering of course the advancements of women and their participation into business, and particularly into the labor market, including for those who are of care workers. So this imbalance affects caregivers, receivers, employers, and the community at large will need to really address in many fronts. So as highlighted by the ILO, women perform 3 times more unpaid care work than men. So it represents, of course, an immense loss of income, of empowerment, economic empowerment, of course, of untapped talent. And when we know that this is, of course, a reality that we cannot ignore anymore, especially at a time when the world of work is confronted with a lot of various transformation driven, of course, by the environmental changes, but particularly also the demographic shifts, and, of course, also the technological advancement. When coming back back to this demographic shift, I must say that Europe and East Asia, for example, among other regions, are facing a really an aging population, which call for the urgent, of course, adaptation of their policies and practices. And so addressing the care economy through an inclusive, solution-oriented lens is therefore crucial. So our invitation to you and wish to promote a discussion and an information sharing on policies and best practices is based, of course, on our common understanding that the experiences that the private sector can further contribute to the development, but also to the implementation of initiative and of policies in this field for the betterment of our community. The care economy is perhaps one of the more, let's say, complex and interconnected work areas, because it touches a lot of aspects from the gender equality to sustainable development and throughout our life cycle and, of course, well-being. So we have today only limited time with this forum to discuss this issue, but we select what host topics and speakers in the spirit of contributing to other forums dedicated to the care economy. So we shall hear the contribution of speakers and discussants ranging from across the globe, who shall provide us with examples of good practice, but also of reflection. And of course, I hope that these exchanges will help develop the creativity, the solution, and of course, a value-driven approach in which those initiatives are conceived. And of course, they are also implemented involving those that employ and that are the beneficiaries they serve. So now I'm pleased, so without losing more time, I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker. It will be Emily Dickens. She is Chief of Staff and Head of Government Affairs of IOE-SHRM, to share, of course, our insight on how IOE-SHRM is advancing this agenda. And I think that, Emily, the floor is yours now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, distinguished colleagues, guests, and friends. It's a great honor to be with you this morning. Well, it's morning time here. It's about 7:30 in the morning here, and afternoon and evening for the rest of you. I'm so excited that we're going to talk about a critical issue at this Global Care Economy Summit. As we come together to address the challenges and opportunities that caregiving presents to our global workforce, I believe we're at a pivotal moment, one where collaboration across sectors, borders, and industries is more critical than ever. Caregiving is a global priority. And so at SHRM, we've long recognized that caregiving can't be a regional issue, and it's important that we talk about it with colleagues such as yourself this morning. In today's world, nearly every country faces the challenge of balancing the needs of caregivers with those of the broader workforce. In the US, for example, caregiving policies have historically been reactive rather than proactive. In fact, 88% of HR professionals in the US report that their organizations only react to adult and elder caregiving needs when an issue arises, and 68% say the same for childcare responsibilities. But this is a global issue too. And whether in Brazil, the US, or any other country, we face similar challenges. Caregiving places a strain on employees, their families, and ultimately on businesses and economies. However, the data shows that proactive caregiving policies are the key to better outcomes. At SHRM, our research reveals that organizations with proactive policies, those that anticipate and address caregiving needs, experience better retention, engagement, and overall workplace satisfaction. Organizations that proactively address even one form of caregiving, be it childcare, adult care, or elder care, report higher retention rates and greater employee engagement compared to those with reactive policies. This brings us to the importance of collaboration and policy. Through the B20 Brazil Women, Diversity, and Inclusion Action Council, we have seen powerful policy recommendations that can help drive real change in how businesses support caregivers. These recommendations include tax incentives for organizations that adopt caregiving-friendly policies, flexible work arrangements, and paid family leave to help caregivers balance their responsibilities without sacrificing their careers. These policies are not only crucial for employee well-being, but also drive positive business outcomes. They help close the gender gap, as caregiving responsibilities still disproportionately fall on women, and we heard that earlier this morning. At SHRM, we've been proud to work with international bodies like the B20 and governments around the world to advocate for policies that support caregivers and promote inclusion. Our research and advocacy efforts have shown that when organizations invest in caregiving policies, they do see a return, not only in terms of productivity, but also in terms of a more engaged and loyal workforce. As we move forward, I encourage here, whether you represent a business, government, or a nonprofit, that you think about how you can implement these policies in your own organizations. This is not just a matter of supporting caregivers. It's about ensuring the future of work is equitable, inclusive, and sustainable. In closing, let me leave you with this. Caregiving is not just a personal issue. It is a business and economic issue. By supporting caregivers, we're not only doing the right thing, but we're also securing the future of our workforce and our economies. SHRM is committed to being a catalyst for this change, and I invite all of you to join us in this mission.
Thank you very much, Emily, for your contribution. Now I would like to welcome the IOE Secretary General, Roberto Suarez Santos, to give us his opening remark and share his valuable insight on how IOE is advancing this agenda. Roberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you also for your leadership. Thank you, Emily, also for your words. I'm sorry to be a little bit late. But I would like also, of course, to begin reaffirming that gender, and I keep saying that very clearly, is a priority for IOE. Gender equality, gender opportunities. And when we say that we consider that as a priority, is because we want to push an agenda which is clear, but also with our members. And the fact that many of you are here also says something for us. But we are not, it's not that we are not shy, we are serious in terms of considering gender as a strong priority in all our activities. And our shared agenda in this area spans a wide range of activities, from dialogue, but more importantly, advocacy. I mean, how IOE is best is influencing, convincing, persuading, and we do it through you and also through this policy working group that you lead, to also some target programs. And you know that we have a mentoring initiative that we launched already some time ago, but also we have an initiative, the B20, which is led by the IOE, which is the All-Way Initiative, Women Empowerment, and this is gaining ground. And it shows also to what extent your interest and your commitment and your engagement is important for us. The topic of the care economy is undeniable, essential to both our personal lives, and more we see that, but also for the global economy. Is a fact, and I think, Emily, also you referred to that, is recognized in numerous international forums, instruments, but also research. And for which without none of us would be here today, without the care and support of our caregivers. In the past, it was the traditional work of women, and now we have to move forward. I mean, we need this social infrastructure. I fully agree that the recent international milestone represent a collective call to action on the care economy, and the ILO outcome was very important for that. I also want to thank Sonia Yanahi, who was our spokesperson, also our vice president for Asia and the Arab world, who was leading this conversation and managed also to get a very good outcome. It was this year, sorry, not last year, last June. Addressing this area is not important, it's crucial, especially as it directly impacts women and economic empowerment and gender equality. Key issues such as the lack of accessible and affordable childcare are pivotal to progress in these areas. According to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, women in 2022 were 43% more likely than men to quote or to give family reasons, particularly caregiving, as the cause for exiting their businesses. So that's one of the main challenge we have. We will really believe on equal opportunities. And this is an imbalance that we must work seriously to correct. As highlighted in the B20L20 joint statement with the unions, there is a need to advance, safeguard, and create jobs, as nothing is less sustainable than a society without employment. I would add to that nothing is less sustainable than a society where women are excluded from full participation in the labor market. And although care services can represent an initial cost to public budgets, and we are clear on that in IOE, the care economy holds a significant potential for job creation. Investing in child care, investing also on social infrastructure and long-term care service could generate up to 300 million jobs by 2035, according to the ILO. And this is a transformative opportunity. And it's not just an issue on developed economies, also in developing economies, we can see that coming. So I don't want to take more time in my first remarks. We see a clear business case for the care economy to grow. We see also that it's a good element for broader social progress. Women integration in the labor market is vital for social cohesion. And third, and not less, it also can lead to a healthier society, a more productive and agile workforce, which is critical for business competitiveness and innovation. So let's work all together, and we are looking also forward to have an exchange with you to see how we as employers can play as a contributor, but also as providers on care services, how we can develop in advancing the care economy. We also are looking to identify areas of action after this exchange in which we can also further make further contributions. And you can count with the commitment of the IOE Secretariat for that. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Roberto. And I share your last point. We will be happy to continue this conversation and, of course, continue action based on today's event. So now, this is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Sonia Jahadahi. She's, as already Roberto said, but IOE Regional Vice President for Asia. She is also ILO governing body member, and she was, during the International Labour Conference last June in Geneva, the Employers Group chair for the discussion on the care economy. And thanks to her and her hard work, employers, as it was said by Roberto, and I fully share, successfully contributed to a positive and practical outcome. So thank you once again, Sonia, and the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Anne. Firstly, I want to say thank you to IOE team, because without them, I wouldn't have been able to achieve what we achieved jointly as a group. And a big thanks to Tina and the entire team, Stephanie, and everybody. And Roberto, of course, it's amazing working with you guys. And thank you for inviting me to participate in this event. It is an amazing opportunity for us here today to share insights and experiences based on the lasting solutions for a sector that is set to grow exponentially in the years ahead. But at the same time, we have many challenges. And this was clearly seen and the work that we did in June. And for this reason, we strive here today to emphasize the spirit of the ILO principles, especially in advancing social justice, decent work worldwide, and making sure that we focus on the tripartite dialogue and action. Most workers in the care economy, both paid and unpaid, are women. And promoting gender equality on recruitment is very important and very relevant in this situation. It is equally vital to rebalance the unpaid care responsibility and enabling women to fully participate in and progress within their professional career and business ventures. Today, I would love to share with you a few insights, or as we call it, nuggets from the employers group's collective vision. And this basically was formed during the tripartite discussion at the 112th ILC conference, which focused on addressing the care economy and care workers. Time is a sense here, but we would like to dive deeply into many significant points from the discussion of June, basically giving you a glimpse on the highlights into the comprehensive and sustainable care economy, and basically, the main focus that we want to do here is to create a care economy which is resilient, number one, and it fits everybody and for all times. If we refer back to, or if we mention, and I'm proud to mention this, the great poet and ambassador and writer, Dr. Maya Angelou, and she said, when you know better, you do better. And that is very important. So in hindsight of the COVID-19 pandemic, we basically were served with a surprise quiz, revealing to us the profound vulnerabilities and the urgent demands within the care economy. And the demand for paid care services is projected to rise worldwide, particularly in the long-term care, where demographic shifts and complex healthcare-related needs are rapidly outpacing available human resources. And this is facing competing budgetary priorities and demands. Sometimes it is possible to adapt to circumstances. However, the supply of quality care is fundamental, since we cannot simply just create jobs, promote career development, and achieve decent work without having the right and adequate human capital and without the right resources to achieve all these challenges. Consider the case of a family member caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease, for example. Can we truly say today that the care services conceived decades ago can fit the purposes that is needed today? We cannot. The projected shortfall of 10 million healthcare workers by 2030 is alarming. And today, by itself, at this moment, we have a shortage and immediate need for 3 million additional workers just to maintain the current care systems. Advancing decent work in the care economy requires transitioning workers from informal to formal employment, where they can be protected by social care, and also ensure that employers can rely on a stable and qualified workforce to ensure that the system is intact and does not collapse. Building on the ILC resolution, I would like to take this opportunity to focus on 4 key points from the employer's perspective. And I focus specifically on these in my closing remarks. And this includes investment, skill development, resources, and public-private partnership. It's critical to focus on investment and partnership. We agreed that investing in the care economy is essential to promote the quality care, decent work, health, and well-being. As such, we call for a robust public investment and strong public-private partnership. One hand cannot clap, and we need both the private and public partnership to work together. A thriving care economy has a positive multiplier effect. Healthier people means more productive enterprises, means stronger societies, a better future. On the other hand, failure to invest in this sector jeopardizes the health and growth of the entire economies and communities. So it's not just affecting healthcare. We're basically, unfortunately, focusing for a collapse of an entire economy if we don't invest in this sector. Advancing decent care in the care economy requires creating an enabling environment for sustainable enterprises. And these enterprises, including MSMEs, need support to respond to the much needed supply of care. Importantly, we recognize the added value of the private sector in promoting decent work in the care economy. The private sector is a vital partner, complementing public services, creating jobs, reducing healthcare costs, and driving innovation. Public-private partnerships can leverage the strengths of both sectors to scale quality care services without unburdening or overburdening either side. Skill development is the second and most important thing. And to promote quality, we must invest in upskilling and reskilling, enabling job seekers to gain viable employment, while also empowering workers to pursue careers as caregivers and nurses, doctors, and supervisors. We want to create a future that is promising, and without upskilling and reskilling, a lot of people are coming out of this sector because they do not see that it has a future, it has a promise at the end. So the recognition of skills and certification are necessary to facilitate swift and effective labor market transitions in the care economy. We welcome the emphasis on efforts to promote active labor market policies, education, and training, and we stress the need to have in place robust apprenticeship schemes gearing to the care economy as a viable professional path, especially in the areas where youth unemployment and long-term unemployment is the challenge. We basically need to focus to address the stigma that apprenticeship is a valuable and beneficial form of skill and competency necessary for the economy and the community at large. Thirdly, resources. We all know the 5R framework: recognize, reduce, redistribute, reward, and represent. But how can we achieve the 5R framework if we don't have resources? And this is what we focused on. We said we need a 6th R, resources, to ensure that all the 5R framework can be achieved. And especially when we're focusing on MSMEs and their contribution to this economy. Like all recommendation, implementation is key as well. On behalf of employers and in line with the spirit of the ILC resolution, we call on public sector to invest in a well-designed and funded care economy that guarantees high standards for both caregivers and recipients, thus enabling an environment for sustainable enterprises and facilitating the transition to formal economy and creating decent jobs. Strengthening the training capacities of care institutions and ensuring the portability of social protection rights for migrant workers is essential because they make up a significant portion of the care workforce in many parts of the world. In conclusion, as employers, we definitely remain committed to being contributors to and partners in the development and advancement of the care economy. This event is an important opportunity to promote a robust agenda addressing both the challenges and opportunities within the care sector. But it's also essential to understand that together we can build a care economy that is resilient, that is sustainable, and fits everybody for the future. An economy that delivers workers, enterprises, and society as a whole and is inclusive for all. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Sonia, with your permission, and thank you very much for your remarks. My name is Tina Morni. I'm the Policy Director at IOE, and this completes our opening segment for this event. It is my great pleasure to be your moderator for the upcoming panel presentation. So we will have 3 speakers speaking, one from SHRM Foundation, from Clariane and Pluxee, and then we will have dynamic discussion with the discussants. So we have guests coming from Lesotho, Pakistan, and apologies, our member from Argentina is unable to come at the last moment. But we will have a Q&A, and then of course, this is not a conversation just among us. It will also open up the floor if we have time with also online participants as well. So just to highlight, really thank you to all of you for joining from all parts of the world. I see colleagues from Trinidad and Tobago, Papua New Guinea, I see Florence, from Malaysia, from Denmark, from Philippines, DRC. So we have a really diverse audience today. Thank you very much for joining. And I see Gustav also, who was in our drafting committee. In fact, he was the one who helped prepare us the closing remarks of Sonia Jinahi on behalf of the group. So thank you all for joining. So without further ado, let me just introduce you the president of the SHRM Foundation, Ms. Wendy Safstrom. Wendy, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I am truly honored to be here today, representing SHRM Foundation at this important Global Care Economy Summit. As we gather to discuss the challenges and opportunities surrounding the care economy, it's crucial that we recognize the significant role that caregiving plays in our workplaces and, more importantly, in the lives of our employees. At the SHRM Foundation, our mission is to create better workplaces by promoting inclusion and diversity. A key part of this mission is addressing the growing needs of working caregivers. And the reality is that caregiving is not a someday issue. It's happening now, and more of our workforce will be impacted by it in the future. We wanted to reiterate some data that highlights the scope of the challenge we're facing. As we mentioned, according to SHRM's recent surveys, many organizations still approach caregiving in a reactive way, responding only when an employee reaches a breaking point. This reactive approach has real consequences. And when organizations fail to adequately support their caregiving employees, we see a direct impact, as we mentioned, on employee retention, productivity, and engagement. But when organizations adapt those proactive policies, like flexible work schedules, caregiving leave, and manager training, the benefits are clear. And as Emily mentioned, businesses that implement proactive caregiving policies report a 75% higher retention rate and a 71% higher engagement rate compared to those that do not. The good news is that we're not starting from scratch, and employers who are leading with intention and adopt proactive caregiving policies can make a significant impact, not just for the employees, but for their business outcomes. And as a starting point, we recommend employers take the following 3 steps. Number 1, design benefits that reflect the needs of their workers with caregiving responsibilities. While every employer is not able to offer the same benefits, offering benefits that would appeal to workers with caregiving responsibilities is a way to attract and retain top talent while enabling the workers to remain in the workplace. Shaping benefits to accommodate these workers will signal the organization's support of caregivers. And while differences exist in organizational size, certainly industry and profit level, that will impact the level of benefits that are offered to employees. Here are some suggestions that we encourage you to consider. As I mentioned, employers should consider flexible work arrangements, such as allowing family caregivers to use flexible work hours, compressed work weeks, paid leave programs that allow for life events, telework, or structuring job description around tasks that can be completed remotely at flexible times of the day. Employers should consider financial wellness benefits, including access to emergency funding, financial planning, tuition, and student loan assistance. These can be welcome incentives when choosing a new workplace, as caregivers often face financial costs associated with direct costs of care, loss of income due to missed work, and diminished earning capacity due to prolonged absences from the workplace. Other considerations for employers can include dependent care flexible spending accounts, healthcare offerings that allow for telemedicine, subsidized or unsubsidized childcare centers or programs, elder care centers or programs, EAPs, and other referral services in emergency child elder care benefits. And number 2, employers should create a culture of inclusivity that seeks to support workers and destigmatizes caregiving. Employers can do this by verbalizing the importance and the value of family caregiving, forming 1 or more support groups, and adopting other caregiver-friendly workplace programs, such as joining employer certificate programs for identifying and credentialing caregiver-friendly workplaces and or hosting family caregiver events. And number 3, people managers play such an incredibly critical role in this, and organizations must provide managerial training on how to support caregiving employees. Right now, only 36% of organizations provide resources for their managers on how to best manage employees who are caregivers. And finally, it's important to mention that we have to look beyond the short-term solutions. Certainly, we talked a little bit about this earlier. While 76% of HR professionals say their organizations effectively manage and address short-term caregiving needs, only 35% feel their organizations are equipped to handle long-term caregiving challenges. We must work towards sustainable, long-term solutions for working caregivers, solutions that will keep them engaged and certainly productive in the workplace. And that's why SHRM Foundation and SHRM are making this caregiving initiative aimed at educating HR professionals on caregiving resources a priority. And our programs offer webinars, guides, and training to equip employers to better support their caregiving employees. And as a closing call to action, I'd like to emphasize that investing in caregiving is not just a social responsibility, it is absolutely a business imperative. And by supporting our caregiving employees, we're creating a more inclusive, engaged, and productive workforce. I encourage all of you to take what you're learning today and thus far and apply it in your organizations. Together, I believe we can foster a workplace environment where both employees and businesses thrive. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here with you today.
Thank you, Wendy, for setting us the scene and also sharing with us the US perspective. This is really interesting. Also interesting to see the role of HR professionals in this space. They play such an important role. Really a pleasure to work with SHRM in this space. And I take this opportunity also to thank Andrew and Chennai, who are also working behind the scenes with Annalise and I to organize this event. Thank you so much. And I also want to recognize that we have colleagues joining from the ILO, UN Women, and OHCSR are also online listening in. So thank you also for joining us. So thank you, Wendy. I will now move to Mathilde Tabari. She's the Director of European Social Relations and Employee Engagement from Clariane, France. Over to you, Mathilde.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to speak in the ILO Global Care Economy Summit today. I'm very honored. So I will I hope you see my screen correctly. So I will give a few words. Okay, thanks. A few words to begin with about Clariane, just to give you an overview, and then I will come back with more details. So Clariane is a private company operating in 6 countries in Europe. We have 60,000 employees in the whole 6 countries, and we operate in 3 main activities, which are long-term care with medicalized nursing homes, specialty care with clinics and mental health, especially mental health clinics. And then the third one is community care with home care and shared housing. For all these activities, we have different brands operating in each country, such as, for example, Corian in France. So yeah, I would like to highlight a few points before explaining Clariane practices. Just saying that we are definitely operating in a fast-changing and quite unstable environment, with, as it was said before, an increasing aging population. And we estimate, we have calculated, for instance, that in total in the 6 countries where Clariane operates, population aged 75 or over will increase by 40% when the overall population remains almost stable. So there is an increasing needs regarding elderly care in the coming years. It is important also for us to consider the difference in the needs. The needs are changing because they are linked to changing pathologies, and we can see that non-communicable disease, chronic disease, these are growing since several years, and we estimate that they will grow more than 15% by 2030. There, we especially on mental health also, which we can see that this issue will grow more in the future, and these are major challenges for care organizations such as Clariane. Also, additionally, the trend is that the people prefer to age at home. Their patient expectations are shifting towards individualization and the will to stay at home longer. This is also an external factor we have to take into consideration when thinking about our strategies and practices. Then market developments require at scale diversified care operators. Operators can tailor care offerings to address personalized needs, and for example, supporting relatives and family acting as caregivers, or supporting also boomer generations who want more choice and privacy than before. Leverage the potential of digitalization, for example, improve patient and relative experience, but also facilitate employee working environment. And this all means that public, non-profit, private operators, there is a place for all these operators in the market today to fit the needs, the growing needs of the population. So having said that, what do we do at Clariane? We offer, as I said before, services on 3 main activities: long-term care, specialty care, and community care. We have been transformed into a purpose-driven care company. In 2000, the transformation was in 2023, with a purpose, which is to take care of each person's humanity in times of vulnerability. And in this framework, we have defined 5 commitments to improve consideration, fairness, sustainability, locality, and innovation. About the activities, just a few words more on the 3 main segments, which are complementary and exactly aligned with the growing needs of the population. Long-term care is for us around 60% of our revenue. Specialty care is around 26%, and community care is growing, and now is around 12% exactly of the revenue in 2023. In the framework of the purpose-led committee, as I said, we have defined 5 topics on which we wanted to identify strategies and measures. So we have defined a CSR roadmap fully aligned with our mission. For example, on consideration, we have now still more engagement than we had before, and action plans related to positive care, to employee health and safety, to support and solidarity, and especially for employee social and psychological support, mediation also, and diversity and inclusion. And on all these topics, we have engagements which are monitored and followed by the mission committee of Clariane. On the HR aspect, we have defined a strategy with 5 main topics. Taking into account external context, and as it was said earlier, the staff shortage, of course, which is a real issue. And therefore, one answer on our side is to develop training and upskilling. And we have now Clariane universities in all our countries. We have skills-based strategic workforce planning, measures on attraction and recruitment, learning and development, employee value proposition, and also digitalization. Now, Clariane has been recognized as the top employer in all countries, and we have here is some examples of results we have achieved. For example, regarding gender equality, we have 80% women in our workforce in Clariane, and 3 years ago we had 40% of women in senior management. So we had taken the engagement to increase this percentage, and now we have 54% of women in senior management. So we have implemented different measures in the framework of the Women Empowerment Principles, which we had signed a few years ago. So different measures to ensure equal opportunity with regular communication campaigns on stereotypes and unconscious bias, for example, programs to support women through training and mentoring and to support them in their career evolution, and also to address issues which might affect women more than men, such as gender violence. And we have a huge program on gender violence in all our countries. This is just an example, but and we emphasize also very much all what is linked to upskilling and certification, and we have now 12% of our employees who follow the diploma or certification course, and this is part of our main objectives for the future. Well, I think my time is out, so thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mathilde. No, you did perfectly on time. Thank you so much for that. And we're doing good on time, actually. So thank you, Mathilde, for that. Congratulations to Clariane for being the leading employer in Europe in this space. Really grateful for you to share your perspective, including the HR strategy, which I think the most interesting thing. You mentioned about this recognition of staff shortages, which is also seen globally, not just in Europe. Skills-based strategy, workforce planning, best practice on how to attract and recruitment. These are all, really, really interesting. And I hope that would inspire colleagues to also to use Clariane as an example in your discussions on this topic. So without further ado, let me now go to Ben Brooks. Let's go to Belgium now. He's the Director of Public Affairs and Sustainability of Ploxy. Ben, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. It's a real pleasure and a privilege to be able to do this intervention for the International Organization of Employers. I'll be sharing 2 slides, which are complementary to my remarks, but really don't aim to cover the scope of all the remarks. So my name is Ben Brooks, and within the Ploxy Belgium board, I'm responsible for all public benefit systems, including the service voucher system. And it's about that system that we'll be talking today. Now, when I was listening to the keynote of Mrs. Janahi, I can already share that the system provides at least some answers to the challenges that she put forward in her remarks in the opening segment. The Belgian service voucher system was developed by the Belgian federal government in the early 2000s to respond to 3 important social and economic challenges. First, to provide social protections for domestic workers, including some labor hour flexibility. Second, to capture personal and corporate tax contributions for the government. And third, to provide government support for working families, which leads to increased overall employment rates because people have adequate bandwidth to go to work instead of one of the partners remaining at home to do the chores. Some academic studies, most recently from the University of Antwerp, have shown the effectiveness of the measure. The latest study estimates that more than 70% of illegal domestic work has now been moved to the regular economy, as well as providing a certain measure of flexibility for domestic workers who often exchange industrial work, if they have any industrial work left, for the more flexible hours of domestic work. Now, let's quickly explain the system, and you see a little bit of a view on it in the slide. One service voucher represents 1 hour of domestic work, which could be cleaning, shopping and cooking, ironing, or transport for less mobile people, and combines a personal contribution of about 10 euros with a regional government subsidy of about 20 euros, the sum of which makes 30 euros, and that's payable to the certified enterprise employing the domestic workers. Now, about 1.2 million people in Belgium use the service vouchers for a total business volume of around 3.2 billion euros per year. The system provides employment to about 160,000 domestic workers, 98% of which are women. And that makes it the third largest employment sector in Belgium. Service vouchers exist in a digital, fully dematerialized format for about 70%, and still in paper format for about 30%, but the Flemish system will be moving to full dematerialization by June 1st, 2025. Now, the Belgian service voucher system was regionalized in 2016. The regional governments attribute public tenders for the management of these regional service voucher systems for periods of 4 years. And since 2008, Plexi Belgium, which was formerly known as Sodexo Benefits and Rewards, has continuously been responsible for the day-to-day management of the actual ecosystem underlying the service voucher system. We're actually very proud to say that a 6-month detailed internal audit revealed payment discrepancies of less than 1,000 euros over the total audited volume of 1.9 billion euros of Flemish payments. Our dedicated public benefits team has designed and still manages and continuously evolves and develops the front-end and back-end systems for all 3 regions in Belgium, as well as the entire communication, including sending out millions of operational communications, the management of the websites, and of course, the contact center activities and the development and management of APIs, connecting certified enterprises as well as banks to our systems. As the underlying legislation quite frequently changes, either in a very small way, such as the subsidy indexation, or in a more significant matter, for example, a change in the subsidy allocation trigger, the underlying system and its rules engines really requires continuous development. Our front ends, they have been developed with deep UX expertise to make interaction with the system as easy and as transparent as possible, while our APIs integrate with third-party apps, such as the apps of the 3 major Belgian banks, to allow an as fluid as possible user experience. We aim to make that experience for the user frictionless, which is really necessary to be able to work at the cost that we work at. And I see that there we go, sorry. For larger certified enterprises, we also offer direct API integration with our systems, which really allows them to optimize their own SG&A costs. And in a sector with really such tight margins, every euro cent that you do not spend becomes important. Now, we honestly believe that the Belgian government and the regional governments were really right to develop or to give the development and management of the ecosystem in hands of a private party such as Plexi Belgium. Why? Because we are the neutral manager at the center of the ecosystem. We're ensuring correct checks and balances across the system, and we have no stake in the game other than to operate the system as cost efficiently as possible. We achieve this as we manage the entire ecosystem at a cost which is lower than 0.5% of the total yearly business volume of the system, because we balance, on the one hand, the drive to be customer-oriented, with a focus, on the other hand, on delivering an automated, full self-service, happy flow, and thus reduce our costs. Now, the correct implication of the private sector is key to driving down both the administrative burden and the overall government administration costs. And in a country such as Belgium, which has quite a complex government structure, that becomes even more important. Now, circling back to the service vouchers, we also believe that this approach is quite easily transferable to other countries and can not only address the challenges that we briefly discussed today, but could well be used to, for example, keep elderly people who are no longer fully autonomous a lot longer in their own homes, which will significantly increase their quality of life, as well as lowering the cost to government. Now, I know that that was a very high altitude overflight of the system, but I am, of course, available and more than happy to respond to any questions that you may have later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben, also for keeping to the time. We're doing really well on time. Thank you so much, colleagues, for your presentations. Thank you, Ben. And it just goes to show how an initiative, when you coordinate well within the ecosystem, it can really benefit all, and in particular, the workers, especially when we also help promote a smooth transition from informality to formality, which is one of the key priorities for the international business community, for employers. And what I found interesting was also when you mentioned about the audits, the discrepancies are very low. So it just goes to show that it can be effective and efficient at the same time in maximizing government resources. Thank you so much, Ben, for sharing that. And of course, if anyone wants to get in touch with Ben, do let us know, or Ben and colleagues could also leave your email addresses in the chat box. Thank you so much for that. So let's now fly to Japan, but we don't have a speaker from Japan. In fact, we'll just change it up a little bit. We'll have a video playing on that. So I'm counting on Marina now to show the video. Over to you, Marina.
Japan is a super-aged society. The labor shortage relative to demand for caregiving services is growing more severe. There may come a time when nursing staff alone will be unable to care for residents. Assistance in collaboration with advanced technology will become more important. I'm you. In the future, huh? I'm going to show you what caregiving will be like in 2040. Okay. For example, resident information is collected as big data, and then an AI recommends the best meals for each resident. Residents can choose their own meals. Food is prepared automatically. Calorie intake and nutrition can also be checked. Nursing staff can share and analyze data in real time and include it in caregiving plans. Mobility aid devices help residents walk and maintain proper balance to prevent falls. Wearable devices share information on the wearer's health with medical institutions. Residents can receive a diagnosis and basic treatment from a doctor remotely. Of course, caregiving staff work together to offer support, putting families at ease. In a virtual space, many residents work from the nursing home. Mobility aid devices also allow residents to play sports. Family members living elsewhere can cheer them on from afar with projection mapping. Nursing staff and residents can devote most of their time to communication. Sensors predict when residents need to use the restroom and alert them. Mobility aid devices let residents go to the restroom on their own. A hybrid shower uses facial recognition to identify individual residents and automatically adjust to the desired temperature and aromas for optimized bathing. AI also controls indoor environment settings to improve livability. Pet robots always stay close to residents. In the future, you'll use various types of data to coordinate optimized care as a partner, supporting the independent lives of residents. Sounds exciting!
Thank you, Marina, for playing that video. And thanks to our colleagues in Japan from Keidan for sharing with us that video. So the idea of this video is either to scare you or to make you more excited about the future. But the idea is just to show an example of how robots and ICT devices in Japan can not only help those who need direct assistance, but also for caregivers, because it can reduce physical injury and hardship among nurses and care workers, as well as reduce their workload and mental stress in the long-term caregiving facilities. So without further ado, I will now go to our discussants. So our discussant has 3 to 5 minutes each. We have with us from Lesotho, Ms. Lindewe Sefomolo, and also from Pakistan, President Malik, who are, in fact, they were very active in our drafting committee in the ILC, in the International Labour Conference, when we were negotiating the resolution on the care economy. So Lindewe, she is the CEO of ALEP, our employer federation in Lesotho. Tell us your insights after listening to the contributions from the speakers from your country or regional perspective. Lindewe, over to you.
Thank you, Tina, and good day, everyone. My region is Africa. And I believe most of you are aware that in most African countries, the care economy is unrecognized and therefore severely undervalued. In Africa, unpaid care work is normalized. It's the norm. It's part of our everyday life. And Africa has been identified as the region with the most unshared system of care. But I have a story to tell you about Lesotho, my own country, from which the private sector can learn a thing or two. Picking up from the speech of Sonia, and whom I should thank. I mean, she did a splendid job for the employers during the last session. It was quite difficult. Well, she talks about the role of the private sector in promoting decent work in the care economy. In particular, she talks about public-private partnerships. Now, in 2009, Lesotho embarked on a public-private partnership to rebuild the country's failing network of public health facilities. The public-private partnership designed and structured and constructed a network of public health facilities, which included a state-of-the-art hospital and 3 expanded primary health care clinics. Now, the new health network has improved the quality of care in terms of accessibility, and it provided good work conditions, training and professional development for health professionals. I think you will remember, Tina, during the resolution discussions that the workers were of the opinion that this was an example of a failed PPP. But contrary to what they were saying, this public-private partnership was able to increase the capacity to deliver affordable and high-quality health services. The patient satisfaction increased, per unit cost of operation decreased, the overall death rate decreased. And here we're also talking about pediatric and maternal death rates, as well as stillborn death rate. All of these decreased. Now, this PPP was chosen as one of the world's most innovative projects in the KPMG Infrastructure 100 World Cities report. So some lessons can be learned from this, is particularly that for successful social infrastructure, public-private partnerships in Africa will require investment in contract management skills. It will require strong budgeting institutions and mechanisms. And more importantly, it will require an enhanced independent scrutiny of the plans and forecasts of financial impacts so that projects do not breach their affordability ceilings, which is ultimately what happened in Lesotho. It was no longer affordable. But the African Union is in this through its Addis Ababa commitment towards shared responsibility and global solidarity for increased health financing. It's a declaration, they call it the Addis Ababa Declaration. It aims to enhance cooperation between the public and private sectors to achieve universal healthcare and health security. The private sector can be an invaluable partner in health service delivery in Africa. And we just need to seize the opportunity. Roberto even called it the transformative opportunity. We need to seize it. Allow me, Tina, to thank the IOE and the IOE-SHRM for organizing this summit and bringing to the fore experiences and lessons learned that maybe we never got an opportunity to talk to when we were sitting in the committee fielding all sorts of comments from the workers. I thank you.
Thank you, Lindewe. Indeed, that was a big fight. It feels so long ago, but it was a very difficult debate for those who were not following the discussion at the ILO during the ILC. It was really difficult. The public-private partnership was a sensitive issue for the workers group, but we managed to convince the room indeed that it does, create a triple win for not just workers, governments, but also employers, right? As you say, the examples that you gave, Lindewe, from Lesotho, in your country, the numbers tell us a story. PPPs do have a positive impact on better health and a better life. So thank you, Lindewe, for sharing your perspective. I will now go to President Malik from Pakistan. President, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tina, Mr. Roberto, Sanya, and all the participants and the group members. I would like to begin by expressing my gratitude to IOE and IOE-SHRM for hosting the Global Care Economy Summit to provide a forum to global leaders to discuss challenges and opportunities in care economy. To me, it is very important and timely that in this era of demographic shift and economical change, the care sector is also undergoing significant transformations with increasing demand for care services. There is an increased demand for more investments in the care economy to improve the equality of services and working conditions. The care work accounts for more than 11% of the total global employment and is central to human, social, and economical well-being. It ensures the sustainability and equality of our lives, yet the caregiving workers are deprived of their rights and work under stress and poor working conditions with low wages. Therefore, there is a need to look at these issues faced by the care workers and provide innovative solutions to ensure decent work within this sector. The Employers Federation of Pakistan fully supports the ILO resolution concerning the decent work and care economy and recognizes the importance of investment in the care economy for making it resilient and provide decent work conditions to workers. In Pakistan, care services largely include healthcare, domestic services, including childcare, elderly people care, healthcare, and home services with more than 80% of women involved. The sector is not formalized and is inadequately developed with very low resources as it is not priority. In our culture, the man is considered a breadwinner and he is responsible for market work where women are mostly engaged in unpaid family work. This includes housekeeping and caring for people, including caring for children and the elderly, which are considered her responsibilities. She normally spends more than 12 hours a day on the unpaid family work. It is shared responsibility for both the public and the private sectors, including charitable organizations that are contributing for the development of the care work sector. The government and the private sectors have taken some initiatives to strengthen and improve the working conditions of caregiving work in healthcare and domestic care, but the workers and caregiving sectors are faced with many issues and challenges, including acute shortage of healthcare workers with increased workload, staff recruitment and retention is a major challenge due to brain drain, lack of education and training opportunities, and inadequate resources, low wage and long working hours. Care work is unvalued and the last choice for the youth, poor working conditions and health and safety issues. Domestic workers are more vulnerable and deprived of basic fundamental rights, exposed to exploitation, harassment, and violence. Employer Federation of Pakistan fully recognizes the importance of care workers and their social economic contributions and considers that a good care system creates a better society and helps in creating a healthier economy. Therefore, Employer Federation, with the support of ILO and the other development partners, had initiated dialogue among the management of members' healthcare organizations, hospitals, and care workers for risk assessment, occupational safety, and joint solutions for improving work conditions. The Employer Federation has also developed a code of conduct for employers of domestic workers to provide better working conditions and protect their rights. Employer Federation is also engaged in policy dialogue with the provinces and federal governments for legislation protecting the rights of care workers. And basically, after seeing what Methlit Tabe's presentation, I feel and I fear that it will take a long time in our country, and especially the developing countries, to reach even 2% of the presentation I have seen by Madam. Also, my friend from Ben Brooks from Belgium, excellent, sir. I think we should try to bring this system perhaps in our country. And Japan presentation is excellent. Perhaps I can be part of that as well in my coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Malik, for your interesting remarks. Indeed, with regard to the Japanese example, analysts kindly put it already in the chat, so feel free to trigger conversations and the national level on that. I think it's really important to have this kind of conversations as we move forward to, on the care economy. It's important to have these honest conversations, as you mentioned, President. There are some countries that are facing brain drain. We need to be conscious of that. And there's also difficulty, as you say, retaining talent, right? When it comes to, care workers. And informality, of course, is a big issue in Pakistan. And we are very conscious of that. And there are also many colleagues here online who also face similar challenges as you. And indeed, with Mathilde's presentation, slowly but surely, I'm confident if there's coordination at the national level between governments and the private sector, there will be a chance that, you know, we could have a healthy ecosystem. And the example that Ben gave, I hope can also inspire you to have that conversation with your government counterparts when it comes to that. This is a really good example on what works, and you know, and we can also talk about what doesn't work, right? I think it's important. So thank you, President Malik, for your inputs. So colleagues, I will now open up the floor to the Q&A. Let's just take the reactions together just to make the time more efficient. I know Mathilde and Ben, you have reactions to the reactions to your presentations as well. But let's now open up the floor to the Q&A. Please raise your virtual hand if you have any particular question. Or also you can write your questions in the chat box. So let me see if there's any questions in the chat box. So there's a request for, thank you, Ben, for sharing your email address. Mathilde, if you could also share your email address in the chat box, that would be really interesting. Annalise included the YouTube video. And I see Gustav. Hi, Gustav. Japan mentioned during our discussion that it will need 2.53 million caregivers by 2025. Indeed, that's true. And Japan, as you know, is a super aging nation. And South Korea is also going towards that direction. East Asia is going in that direction. So I would now give the floor to Anne first, our chair.
Thank you, Tina, and thank you to all speakers. I have a specific question from Mathilde for our presentation, because in one of the last slides, there were a few words on the context in which your company is operating and the staff shortages that you are facing. And my question is how I have seen that you put on the slide few policies that you are implementing, but do you have a particular difficulty in attracting young people? And because it's interesting to know if the young generation is, I hope, but interested to join your company. And what did you put in place to attract a young generation? I've seen that you mentioned the Clarion University. I imagine that, for example, you hire them maybe in through apprenticeship systems. That would interest me to know if for the young generation specifically you put specific HR policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Let's take all the questions. I'll stop at Chidi, and then we'll give the floor back to Mathilde and Ben. And then I'll close the, apologies, colleague, because we have 15 minutes left. I'll close the session and then give the floor back to Anne. So now, Gustav, you can introduce yourself and then present your comment and question, please.
Of course. Thank you, Tina. Good day, dear colleagues at the IOE. Good day, dear colleagues on this call. Thank you for taking this time and recognizing some of the IOE priorities that we've put forward, not only during the conference, but also during the summit. Well done, speakers, if I may. I think it's a great add-on to what we've been discussing so far since the International Labour Conference. And to keep it short and sweet, what I would like to ask from our speakers is, if I'm not mistaken, the objective of today is to focus on a solution-oriented agenda. So my question to every speaker is, in addition to the priorities we've already identified at the IOE at the beginning of this session, which solution is the solution, or maybe a solution, you would recommend we add on to our priorities? Thank you.
Thank you, Gustav. Did you introduce yourself or not? Maybe I missed it. You did. Okay.
No, I haven't.
Please do so. Please do so.
Exactly.
Just real quick.
My bad. So my name is Gustav van Oosterom. I work at Randstad at Global Public Affairs, and I participated in the International Labour Conference on behalf of the Dutch Central Employers Organization. Did you manage? Did that come across?
Yes, yeah. I see Anne nodding. We couldn't hear, but I think from other colleagues they are nodding. Okay, all right. Thanks, Gustav. Patricia from DRC, if you can introduce yourself. Thanks, Gustav.
Yes, Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Patricia from DRC, the heart of Africa. And I'm part of the employers organization in the DRC, and I'm also the manager of the Job Factory dealing with human capital in the DRC. My question is regarding what's been said, and I thought that Ben Brooks was very interesting. I see here an opportunity, since we were not such a long time ago in the context of just transition. I believe that I see here an opportunity for labor migration. Remember, we have lots of youth. Okay, I mean, there's so many problems, and that is maybe just what I would like to emphasize on, and I'm sure we're going to chat further. So, but I really see here an opportunity, you know, into that. So we can, like I say, we can chat further, not to take all the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. And yes, we met each other in Kuala Lumpur for a Just Transition meeting. Indeed, there was a topic there which is to do with labor migration. We'll be also be personally interested to hear the Ben and Mathilde and other colleagues also chip in on that part. Thank you, Patricia, for the question. And last but not least, Chidi from ILO, can you please introduce yourself and present your comment or question? Thanks.
Hi, Christina. Thanks for sort out my video. For some reason, won't turn on. But anyway, I hope you can. There I am.
We can see you. Yeah.
Thank you. And first of all, I'll be very brief. I know time is short, but I really just wanted to congratulate IOE on a fantastic conference. It's been quite illuminating listening to all the inputs from all the participants, and what an excellent follow-up as well to the discussions at the ILC and the resolution that you all adopted in there. Sonia, a real pleasure in particular to see you again. And I just want to echo what was said about the amazing leadership that you provided during what was at times quite difficult discussions, but nonetheless helping us to get to common ground. Briefly, I can see so much commonality between ILO constituents on this issue, and I'm really excited about the possibility of the work that can be done together to support employers and their organizations, to support workers and their organizations, but also to support our governments. It's not an easy topic for governments either, the question of investing in care. I think everybody recognizes the primordial importance of it, but the how to do it, the where to find the resources, the collaborations that are required, this is not an easy agenda for them. I would just like to highlight that it's high on the agenda of governments nonetheless. Apart from the global resolutions that we're familiar with, the G20 and the G7 have put this really at the center of their discussions this year. ILO has been involved in crafting declarations around this, roadmaps around this, and we hope that they'll be extremely useful moving forward, with our constituents on this. But we're really keen to keep working with the IOE on moving this agenda forward. We know how critical it is to employers, to businesses, to productivity. That shocking figure of 43% more women likely to drop out of their business activities because of care responsibilities really hits home. And we know that well over 600 million, we're just about to update these figures on 29th of October, well over 600 million women are outside of the workforce because of care responsibilities. And this denies a huge talent pool again to employers. So let me stop there. I went on a bit longer than I meant to, but again, just to say congratulations on what has really been an excellent conference.
Thank you, Chidi, and thank you once again to you and your team. In fact, for the ILC, it was very smooth. We had an emergency because the chair, due to health reasons, had to step out halfway through the negotiations. But of course, the ILO team really did an amazing work in terms of making sure we had an enabling environment for fruitful, productive discussion. And we're very proud with what we had with the resolution on the care economy. Very proud. So it's positive, it's pragmatic, it's practical. Of course, under the leadership of Sonia, the whole team was behind her. We really had a really good discussion with governments and workers. So thanks to you, Chidi, and we look forward to working with you, of course, with ILO ECTAMP behind the scenes as well, working with us on that with Jae-hee. So we're looking forward to work with you as a team. So thank you, Chidi. So I will now, before closing the floor, give the last words to maybe Ben first, and then Mathilde, and then I'll give the floor back to Anne. Ben, over to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the questions. Let me very quickly go through them, Gustav, with respect to the other priorities. My response would be quite simple: none, but move towards practical implementation as soon as possible. I mean, you will need to keep an openness with respect to possible iterations and pivots, because the dynamics in different countries will be different, but move towards practical implementation as soon as possible of ideas and solutions. Patricia, labor migration, that is such a huge topic, and we can go on for hours, but very quickly, the Belgian service voucher system currently attracts between 20 and 30% of people that do not hold the Belgian nationality. It could be more, but there are some limits that have been imposed. But let's be very realistic. In Europe, we will need external labor force in order to be able to manage this challenge of an elderly population. And then, Chidi, linking to what you said, the activation of the huge talent pool that are women. Again, there, a political party in Belgium that was not too enthusiastic about the system held on to it, really because they saw that it allowed both single women, mothers, or people, women in a relationship, to remain at work, because some of the chores that were traditionally theirs could be done by somebody else. So there you have that optimization. So I hope that kind of responds from my perspective the questions that you put forward.
Thank you, Ben. May I just now give the floor to Mathilde, because I see Wendy is no longer online. So Mathilde, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. To answer the question raised regarding young generations, well, as far as there is an issue regarding attractivity in the care sector, globally speaking, so not only for Clariane and for the young generations too. So there is I would say there are two main issues. One is attractivity. The second one is the lack of the resources, trained resources, compared to the need in the care sector. So, which means we have, as a company, to work still more on retention in order to ensure the people we recruit stay with us, which means first of all, actually we develop apprenticeship quite in a large way. We have more than 7,000 people in qualifying courses, in internal qualifying courses in Clariane by now. And we attract and train these people, and then retain through different programs to improve working conditions and then answer young generation needs regarding, for example, flexibility. And we have to work on our work organizations because there is an increasing need on flexibility, which is not that easy to tackle, but we do, and especially in the framework of the social dialogue at the European level and at country level. And one last word would be also that we also need, and maybe it could answer the question of Gustav, but I think one point which is very important is that the support, the cooperation and support from governments, of course, to increase training opportunities and to increase salaries, because we cannot also deny that salaries are not enough attractive for a part of the population.
Thank you, Mathilde. Thank you, colleagues. Can we just have a round of applause and also some virtual like claps to all the speakers? Wendy, Mathilde, Ben, Lindiwe, Malik. So thank you so much for all your inputs. It was a really rich conversation. Now back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you. I will also reiterate big thank first to the IOE team organizing this event, Tina, Annelise, and all the others that I am not on the screen, but I know that they are behind the screen. So thank you so much for this organization. Thank you, of course, once again to all the speakers. It's difficult in 2 minutes to sum up and to come back on whole speaking, very interesting speaking points that had been made, but maybe a few things that it's true that we have seen thanks to the various intervention that we are not, it's true, the companies of the care economy, the care sector are not at all operating in a constant and similar situation. Of course, there is a real diversified context that we have to take into consideration, from Pakistan to Lesotho, from Europe to Asia. But we all need, and that was, of course, once again emphasized, and we know that it's on top of our priority, continue to be proactive and discuss with our government, but also as employer organization put pressure, I will say, on our members to develop policies and to train also our managers, as it was said, to be open to this type of inclusive policies that are now necessary. But the very important and interesting thing that, of course, that was discussed, is that there are also solutions. Some of them are already implemented, as we heard through, of course, Ben, for example, with this very interesting Belgian example. And of course, as you said, Ben, that can be duplicated. So that's a very that is transferable, and that it's very interesting, but also with Mathilde, and of course also with Wendy, all the proposals that are already implemented by companies. So this is not the stop of this conversation. We will continue to work on it, and thank you very much for your participation to this event today. Thanks. And see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, colleagues.